right, everybody, what's going on? This is Jeff Gamble, Indianapolis, Indiana, and this is the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. So what we're going to do first is invite everybody on. David Wood, Yvette, April, Dave, Jim, Teddy, Francisco. What's up, everybody? I know some of us are celebrating the 4th of July on the 3rd. I know it's just officially the state holiday being observed today. So if you're going out to do something, awesome. If you're at home just with the day off, that's great too. If you're working, I totally understand. It's Friday. That's what we do. We work. And we're going to be working too today. Just getting all these invites in. There has to be a faster way to do this. Come on, people. Mary Cooper's here. Dave Roeder's here. What's up, sir? And it kicked me off. Paul DeCina, Alicia Dukes, Cheryl. Get them all in, get them all in. Christina. Okay, just about there, Melissa. All right, guys, we got all the invites in. Happy 3rd. We are at the end of the book, Failing Forward, last chapter. So I hope you guys had a good time going through this. This was one of the better books that I've ever gone through by John Maxwell. 21 Laws of Leadership, yeah, the 21 Qualities of a Leader kind of hit me. But this was one of the first books that I really, really connected with, that you got to go out there and put in the time. You got to go in there and put in the work. Not everything is going to work out perfect. Perfection leads to paralysis. I have to learn. I just want to do everything great and everything perfect right off the bat. It doesn't happen. Not in business. It's not going to work that way. I know that starting Monday, we're going to be going over Brandon Burchard's High Performance Habits. High Performance Habits for Truly Successful People. That's by Brandon Burchard. We actually put that link inside of the Facebook group, MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, where you can actually order that book along with the audio and the workbook. It's like $7. That's not my deal. That's not the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show's deal. That's actually a deal by Brandon Burchard exactly, or directly. So we're going to get into this chapter here. Chapter 16, Now You're Ready to Fail Forward. It says, well, now that you have the steps of failing forward, let's review them really quickly. Number 1, realize that there's one major difference between average people and achievement people or achieving people, and that's the achieving people learn how to fail forward. They learn how to go out and make mistakes. They learn how to go out and mess it up, and then they start adjusting based on what's happening. The more work that you do and put in. So I was with actually a friend of mine yesterday that's achieved some monster things in business. We drove down to Kentucky and we're with this gentleman. This is part of our team and lineage and upline and what we're physically doing. And he said something really interesting. He goes, if you want to succeed faster, you have to double your rate of failure. If you want to succeed faster, you have to double your rate of failure. You're going to have to go into it faster. And if you go into it faster, what's going to happen is, yes, you will fail more, but you'll also succeed more. And one of the things that will happen is not only will you fail more and succeed more, but you'll get better faster. And a lot of people don't connect the dots there. You'll get better faster. What does that mean? The faster you are contacting people, the better you get at contacting. The faster you are presenting to people, the better you get at presenting. You do not get better at presenting sitting back studying presenting. You get better in the field. 1 hour in the field is worth 20 hours in the classroom. You're not going to perfect it at home. You're not going to perfect, well, you might perfect it at home if you're on a Zoom or on free conference call, or you're on the telephone actually physically talking to people. 2, it says learn a new definition of failure. What does that mean? New definition of failure. Failure is not, I'm done. Complete failure means you quit. I'm just out. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Now, a lot of people, hi Shamala, a lot of people will start out by saying I'm done. and then realize, you can have days off, and you'll have days where you're like, I'm done, I'm out, I quit. And then you have to come back and start over again. Take action and reduce your fear. So there is kind of a principle that the longer you delay something, the more fear grows. The longer you delay to do it, the more fear grows. The faster you get back into it. So especially when presenting, you'll present for a while and then get out of doing it. Happens to everybody. And then when you go back to present, it's almost like you're scared to get on the phone with that first person. Once you get on the phone with one person, you're like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. What the heck is wrong with me? But it's just the jitters of going, it's like stage presence. People who sing all the time, people who perform all the time. Well, not now, but like when everybody was getting together. When you do it all the time, the fear goes away. When you wait for a while and then come back and do it again, there is a momentary, and it becomes smaller and smaller the longer you do it. 4, take action to reduce your fear. Remove the you from failure was number 3. Remove the you from failure. It's not you're failing. It's, you're moving forward at whatever you're doing. 4 was take action to reduce fear. So I got those mixed up. 5, change your response to failure by accepting responsibility. It is your responsibility to move forward. It's your responsibility in your business to get it done. It's nobody else's. Nobody's going to show up and be like, hey, you should really get your business done. You should really be working. You should really be doing something right now. If success and opportunity come knocking at your door, beware. Like, that's normally not a good thing. 6, don't let failure from the outside get inside. Failure from the outside. Don't let your environment affect what you're doing. Don't let the people around you who are negative affect what you're doing. You have to isolate yourself. You also have to protect the environment you're in and protect your space, protect your head, protect your ears. I love what a friend of mine said. He goes, would you literally let somebody pee in your ear? And most people are like, no. You might be into whatever you're into, but like most people are like, absolutely not. Would you let a dog or a cat or anybody pee in your ear? Like, no. Then why would you let someone sit there and dump garbage into your head consistently? Like, it's crazy, but people actually let people do this. I don't care who you are. You're like, look, I love you, but we can't spend time together because the garbage that you're spilling out that's not helpful. Like, it's different if it's like, hey, I'm concerned. Okay, you can be concerned. But if it's constant negativity, I need to isolate myself from you. And I don't care who you are in the family or the hierarchy of whoever. I can make that happen. 6, don't let failure go from the inside. Okay, 7, say goodbye to yesterday so you can't look backwards and move forwards. It's very hard to drive a car forward while looking backwards. It's very hard to drive a bicycle or a skateboard or rollerblades or walk. Some places, I think it was Japan, just made it illegal to walk with your cell phone, especially on a street. And it makes sense because they're a city and people are walking out into traffic and getting hit because they're so focused on this in front of them that they're not actually looking at the street. 8, change yourself and change your world. Change yourself and the world changes. Jim Rohn says, work harder on yourself than you do on anything else. If you work harder on yourself than you do anything else, everything around you changes. A rising tide raises all ships. A rising tide raises all ships. So you want to be that tide that the better you get, everything else around you gets better. It's amazing. You'll see everything different. You'll talk to different people. And people approach you differently. It's really funny. When you have a positive energy and your body language changes, the negativity that comes at you changes. People think twice to even bring garbage to you. Now, some people will forget because they're just in their, in their usual state. And you can wake them up and be like, yeah, you can't share that crap with me anymore. Get over yourself. Get over yourself and start giving. When you get over yourself and you start giving, so when you go to help someone else, it helps adjust and correct all of the garbage that you're going through. Benny, what's going on? Happy 4th of July that's recognized today on the 3rd, right? So get over yourself and start giving. When you give, it's very hard to hold negativity and animosity when you're giving to somebody else. It's like those two things usually don't go together. 10, find the benefit in every bad experience. So there's always something good that comes out of it. What did you learn? You know, that's John Maxwell's like usual question. What did I learn here? 11, if at first you don't succeed, try something harder. If at first you don't succeed, try something harder. Or try at it harder. It says try something harder. Try something. So adjust something you're doing. Double the rate of failure. When you double the rate of failure, you're also going to double the rate of success. But actually, you're going to increase the rate of success. And that's something that he doesn't really go into, but that's what actually happens. When you double the rate of failure, what happens is you get better faster. And if you get better faster and people start to notice that, what ends up happening, now if you're showing one presentation, you go to 2 presentations, you're going to get a little bit better at the presentation. But when you go from 10 presentations to 15 to 20, when you double the rate of failure, right? But you have to be failing at a certain rate to have any, result at all inside of direct sales or network marketing. Shar, how are you? It takes some work here, guys. People are like, well, I'm going to do almost nothing and see if almost nothing works. Well, you're going into it with the wrong philosophy. Learn from bad experience and make it a good experience, which is kind of like what he said earlier about, find the benefit in every experience. Learn from every bad experience. 13, work on the weaknesses that weaken you. Work on the weaknesses that weaken you. So the 21 qualities of a leader is a really good place to start. The 21 laws of leadership is another great place to start. Look at what you're not good at. Look at what the traits you don't have. You're like, well, I just don't have any charisma, so I'm just not going to be charismatic, and I'm going to look for people that have charisma. No, you have to develop some of it. Like, there's a certain point that you have to get to just to be, you don't have to be great at it, but you have to be okay to be able to attract someone else who's great at it. And say, hey, look, you fill in. Raise your commitment level to what you're doing. Work on the weaknesses. 14, understand there's not much difference between failure and success. What that means is it's funny that the people who are failing sometimes are doing the work. They're doing the work, but they're doing it maybe with the wrong attitude. They're doing the work being pessimistic or being self-sabotaging. Starting out by saying, this is never going to work, or I can't believe it's taken this long, or, the people have all kinds of weird crap that they say to themselves. And you have to ask yourself, what are you saying to yourself as you go out the door every day? What are you saying to yourself when you get up every morning? Oh my gosh, here we go again. People will start that way and be like, I just don't understand why my business doesn't work. Nothing, my cup of coffee was cold this morning. I ran out of creamer. I went to the store and I couldn't get in and they wouldn't let me. It's like Eeyore, from Winnie the Pooh. Like, that's what they sound like. It's kind of, they are nice. You can be nice and pessimistic. You can be happy and pessimistic. Like, I've seen people that with a smile on their face will be self-defeating. And almost come across like positively negative. It's the weirdest thing. But some of you might know people like this too. So get up and get going. He says, I believe wholeheartedly in these steps, but they probably won't mean a thing unless you see them for yourself in your own life or you go help somebody with them. So famous Dave Anderson, he talks about Dave Anderson. Not going to go into that. The typical teenager and what they do. Opportunity came calling. Dave's first business, another veteran. So he's got some things. He just tells a bunch of stories during this. If you're looking for how to tell a story, John Maxwell's a really good one to look at. It's not about Dave. It's definitely not about Dave. It says to succeed, you have to be open to problems. You have to be open to failure. And as you go up the ladder, you gain the right to get more problems. So what he's saying is it never goes away. Never goes away. So failing forward, this book, I think the goal of it is just to teach you how to go out and get beat up a little bit. Gary Vaynerchuk says it very differently. He's like, you have to have patience. You have to have patience. When you're going out and building a business, you have to have patience. He's talking about failing forward. He goes, you have to go out and try things. I was listening to Dan Pena last night, and he was like, the beautiful thing about the internet is you get an automatic reaction. He goes, in the past, you could go out and you could present to 10 people and you wouldn't get an automatic reaction because a lot of people don't pick stuff up right away when they're just out live. You know, when you're out and doing something live, you don't have the ability to go back and look at a videotape of it and say, well, what was I doing? I mean, for some of us, if we could go back to the very, very first time we ever worked on something, or, you know, we're in our field doing a presentation context, if we could go back and it was on tape, which now you can tape everything. I'm not saying you should tape everything, but now you can tape everything work-wise. You can go back and look at how you're doing. Oh, wow, I can see that I improved. I can hear that I improved. It's taped. We can track it, would be a better way to say it. We can track the fact that it's better. But we didn't have that. So what you had to do is you had to go beat your head against the wall for a while. By the way, if you beat your head against the wall, it burns like 150 calories an hour. I just learned that. So if you did it long enough, you could actually lose weight doing that. Some people, that's their goal. You know, some people are just banging their head against all kinds of stuff. You know, that's their plan. That's not exactly what we're talking about when we talk about failing forward. There's a way to start tracking what you're doing and start looking at, is this moving me ahead? Is this in a good direction? Am I doing the right thing? And then it's really, really important, I think, with failing forward, the other thing is finding someone who can coach you through it. Dan Payne has said it this way. He goes, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The reality is self-esteem, which is all about self. You know, so if you're pointing the finger at somebody else, that somebody did something, that's why they call it self-esteem. It's for yourself. It's from yourself. It's not from the outside and what other people are doing. It's an internal thing. It's an internal kind of philosophy, and it's actually built between 0 to about 7 years old. By the way, if you don't know that, your subconscious mind is really developed and put together from 0 to 7. From 7 to 14, it's like logic is put together, like this is the way things work, you know, this is gravity, it falls off. And then your hormones hit and you go nuts, and that's where you develop like emotional, you know, stability from 14 to 21. And that's why they say it's very difficult if you're with somebody, marry somebody, around somebody, you know, during that, you know, 16 to 21, which a lot of people do fall in love and they make it work and figure it out. But a lot of times that person can change drastically during that time. And people, you know, somewhat change. But by about 21, I think that's the reason Benjamin Franklin said, you know, most people live to age 25 and they basically die at 25, but we bury them at 85. They die at 25 because mentally they don't change anymore. Mentally they're set in their ways. Emotionally they're set, you know, but it's not true if, you know, how do you change that? If you're over the age of 8, which probably are on this channel, I said probably, almost always are on this channel, in this show, if you're over the age of 8, how do you change it now? How do you change it now? There's a couple things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to change the people you're around. You're going to have to change the input. The input being books that you're reading, audios that you're listening to, videos that you're watching, people that you're hanging around. You have to change those things. Because if you don't change those things, you will keep getting, Tony Robbins, I think, was a great quote. If you keep doing what you've always been doing, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. And I know that's not proper English or the right way to say it, but the quote is absolutely correct. So, you know, it's hard to argue, even though the English is not perfect. And again, perfection leads to paralysis. If you're trying to do it absolutely perfect, you won't get out there and do it because you'll constantly start working on it. Ding Payne said it this way. He goes, if it was up to the engineers, the car would never come off the production line. If it was up to the engineers, you know, so that perfectionist mindset can sometimes set you back. So that's why it's so important to understand personalities and learn how to be able to move people forward into activity, into action, into figuring it out. And that's where you're going to get the best at doing all this. So with that, guys, that's what I got out of Failing Forward. It is one of my favorite books. All of John's books are good, but I do have a couple favorites. Had the opportunity for shifting all the time. This is a good one to pull out like once a year. So there's like Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Magic of Thinking Big, Skill with People, Failing Forward would be another one. There's a couple books that every single year that I've pulled out and read, and the funny thing is, it's like the 21 Laws of Leadership, the 21 Qualities of a Leader. There's about a dozen books that I see that it's not about always something new. It's about going back and mastering just a few things. If you go back and master just a few things, and you get really, really, really good at the few things, the right few things. So David Bird, one of my coaches, said, true success is basically finding the right things to do. There's a half a dozen right things. Find the right things to do, and then doing them consistently long enough to produce the results you want. So I asked, I was like, is that just the problem? Is that the problem? People just don't tend to do it right? And he's like, no. The biggest problem is people usually never find the half a dozen things to begin with. So, read every day, watch every day, listen every day. And not just to this, listen to personal development that moves you forward. Read books that move you forward. Associate with the right people, then go out and do the work. It's about a half a dozen things that make up 80% of success. About a half a dozen things. The problem is most people don't know what those half a dozen things are. And if you do know, you're randomly doing them rather than tracking them. It takes a system to bypass your natural human instinct. The reason people tend to fail is not necessarily because they don't know what to do. It's because they lack the discipline to do it. They lack the discipline. The reason you're lacking the discipline is because you're not tracking it. Your basic human instinct says, well, I'll do a little bit today, and as soon as it feels bad, as soon as it gets tough, your mind sabotages what you're doing. So it takes a written system. It takes a written system, goal-driven, not feeling-driven, goal-driven. It takes a written system that's goal-driven to bypass your natural human instinct. And if you can do that and you can track it, you can move forward very, very quickly because you can actually physically see that you're moving forward and not failing forward. Well, you would be failing forward at that point, not failing completely. How many X's? We used to say, how many X's do you have on your days? X's are, I didn't do anything that day. If you look at a calendar of the month, how many X's are there? How many days? Now, if you plan to have the day off, like this evening, plan to have the evening off. But typically, I've learned not to take the day off unless it's like something super, like an anniversary based thing, and we're going to be out of town. But typically, I don't take the day off. I'll take an event. I'll block out a period of time, but then I'm going to go get a bunch of other things done. So that's what I got for today. Happy 4th of July to those of you who celebrate that, because I know we got people on here from all over the world. Happy 4th of July. Some people say happy treason for Britain Day, whatever you want to celebrate. It's this weekend. Be with family, hang out, have fun, and we will see everybody Monday with a brand new book, brand new series, Brandon Bouchard, High Performance Habits of Achievers. And that book and workbook and audiobook is listed inside of the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show Facebook page. You can go order it. Brandy got one. I already got one. $7 for the book and all that stuff. The audio, because I guess it comes on CD or DVD, along with the workbook. So you get all that. Appreciate everybody for being on. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time.